we all get offended about things. It's how do we take that and let go of it? Like, yeah,
Well,
I'm
how
just gonna.
long did it take? How long did it take for you to let go of it? You're
No,
thinking about it.
no, I was thinking about it. Probably a couple hours.
Okay, yeah. And then that goes back to what I was saying, right? The event happens, but then like we replay the event over
Yeah,
and over in
right.
our head. That's the
Yeah,
part where we can get, if we don't manage that right,
yeah.
boy, we can find ourselves in a really, really crappy place.
Oh
Almost like
yeah.
a prison.
All right. So it has been a while since we had a podcast that we've done together. And this is an interesting question that I've been throwing out there to different people. And I don't even remember where it came from, but I started talking to my wife about the fact that, when was the last time that I was offended? Or when was the last time you were offended? Because I think that, me anyway, I can't really remember the last time I was actually offended at somebody or something. I've been hurt, I've been disappointed, I've been frustrated. There's plenty of other things. And I thought maybe it's just because that's more of an emotionally mature state to be able to like name things that that you're actually feeling instead of just getting overwhelmed and whatever and offended. But I don't know, it was interesting. It kind of made me think of that. And then as I was I've had a lot of interesting conversations with different people in church circles, some that are like super hardcore Christians, some that have essentially fallen away from the faith because that's how they grew up. And how the time that I remember hearing and talking about offense the most was when I was a pastor of a church. And that's where it kind of would come up. Like people would get offended at something and then they'd go to another church or something like that. Anyway, but I was like, I got to ask Ray about this question. Like, what are your thoughts on offense? How do you see people being offended? Is it just like emotional immaturity? Is it, I don't know. What do you got? What do you got? What do you got for me?
Well, man, now you put me on the spot. Um, um,
I did warn you I was going to put you on the
I
spot.
know, but you did such a great job of uh, just opening up with a good topic. It's a great topic, man, because I'll be honest, dude. And I think if you're honest too, I think everybody carries around some sort of offense. It like, but I think some people manage it better than others. And I think like it's
Well, what's like maybe we
yeah,
define that. Like, how do
yeah,
we
sure.
define offense versus hurt versus disappointment versus, or is it all the same thing? Like maybe that's where I started getting hung up.
Well, well, I think when you are offended, I think it comes with some hurt. Like your feelings are hurt. The way you think hurt. Because somebody either either disagrees with you or they challenge the way you think. And for us, like, and that's why I said, like, I feel that being offended, I think it's inevitable because we all have our things that we hold close to our hearts. And um and when it's challenged or shaken a little bit, depending on what it is, um it's like, yeah, it's not about like convincing you that you're not supposed to be hurt by it. Or you should never feel hurt. It's almost like being offended it really is a choice,
Mm.
right?
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of goes back to what this podcast is all about. It's having a choice of how you manage it, how you manage that hurt. So I think you know that's that's how I look at offense. So I don't know if yours is along the same lines as mine, or I'm curious about how you kind of look at offense. And
Yeah. I was telling you, it was a weird, and I don't even remember how it came up initially, like I said, but it made me think back to when was the last time I was offended, and then it got me into like, well, why the word offense? Because if I thought back to a time, and this was like 2019, where I was, and I realized I'm like, oh no, was it offense or was it like disappointment? Was it hurt? Was it, and maybe it was offense. It was, okay, you're talking out of a lot of ignorance and you have no idea what you're talking about. And the things that you're saying, because you're ignorant and quite frankly stupid on this subject, you're, it's hurtful, right? And you're kind of ignorant to the fact that you're unintentionally, talking about stuff that you have no idea what you're talking about. Uh,
See, now I'm offended that you even said that. Like, an easily offended person would be like, "Whoa, easy! What are you trying to say? That I don't know what I'm talking about? What's going on?"
Yeah, well, and
Like,
that's what made me think, like, because I agree. I think that obviously there's a choice there, but I think there are some people that you're right. They are easily offended and maybe thin skinned or whatever. Like there's different things where it's anything, and anything is triggering. Everything is triggering. You don't understand me. You don't understand my truth. And there's an element of that where you're like, okay, well, you got to get tougher. I don't know. Like the world's tough. I don't know. I don't know. It's just you got to get thicker skin sometimes. But at the same time, I think it's the only thing I could come up with is it all comes back. It seems to be a lot of the conversations I have come back to this theme of trust, which I did this talk back in March about it. It's something that I'm kind of sketching out for another book about like trust and how to define trust and but it made me think about that the people that can hurt you the most obviously are people that you let the closest to you, right? That's true in just relationships in general. And so if people that are close to you can offend you, then I think it comes with a lot of like unmet and unspoken expectations. When I was in San Diego yesterday, I was talking to a business owner down there, and I was talking about the fact that most expectations are unmet and unspoken because people don't know how to articulate them. But if you just flat out ask somebody and say, "Hey, what are the expectations you have in this relationship, or the expectations on this job or this partnership or whatever?" People don't know. But then when something happens and they get offended, it's because there was an expectation that maybe they weren't even able to articulate that was unmet, it was unspoken, and then they just pick up it's kind of like I take my ball and go home, kind of thing, instead of having conversation about it. And he's a younger guy. He was a business owner. He's like, "Whoa, that seems really confrontational." I'm like, "Not really." So then I asked him, I said, "Okay, what expectations do you have in this relationship?" And it kind of stumped him. He's like, "I don't know." I'm
yeah,
like, "Well, like you're a client of mine. You pay me to fly down to San Diego and hang out with you. But what expectations do you have here? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this? What assumptions do you have? Like, what fears are there? What asks?" And I said, I think the thing is most people don't know how to do that. Most people don't know how to articulate the things that they're thinking, feeling, whatever, and or they don't have the courage to just say it. Even if
right,
they do have it, if there is an
yeah,
assumption or an expectation or something, and they just don't
yeah,
have the courage to come out and say, "Yeah, this is what I'm thinking, feeling, processing," and then, yeah, no, it was just kind of interesting because again, I and this will offend people already, is that I find people that are highly offendable. I hold them in pretty low regard because it's like, man, that's not a real big problem, because usually the things that people get offended at sometimes it's things that are outside of their control. I, I don't know, because now I'm thinking about, I don't know where my brain's going with that, but it's kind of like if I think about church and people say, "Well, I offended because somebody said something about this, or I disagreed with somebody, so therefore I'm offended. I'm going to go somewhere else."
yeah. W- I think the church world, we can go into different avenues uh, of certain certain areas where people get offended, whether it's the church world, whether it's the sports world, right? I think the thing is that you kind of hit on it, right? Like you can't control what actually offends you and what hits you, right? But but you can't control what kind of what kind of stays with you afterwards, and that's the
Mhm.
managing part, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I view a lot of people can look at an offense where it can be like a one-time event, but I think a lot of people they suffer more than just the one event because so the whatever the offense, it happens, but then 1,000 times it like replays in their heads and they
Yeah.
remember it,
And then
and
it
that
becomes
turns into,
bitterness. Right. Yeah.
and it becomes bitterness, right?
Yeah.
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 And that's how, like, fallout happens. And when when you were talking about this this guy that you're building a relationship with, um it's interesting that that's the response was, whoa, it's a little confrontational. Now, when I hear that from you, and I think a lot of this is because I trust you, right? And we have a relationship when we built that. Um, we've built a bridge to where, if you are going to tell me hard truth, it can bear the weight of it, and I'm okay with you doing that to me. I think there's some people, just kind of like what you said, right? They're not used to like iron sharpening iron, where chips may fly, a couple sparks may fly, and that's okay. That's how you get sharper, right? And maybe, and it seems like you're the perfect guy to kind of learn, show him how, what it looks like to be sharp, right? Uh and say things that, yes, are going to be out of comfort zone, but listen, like, if you really know who I am, and I hope that we get to that point, you will understand that everything I say to you is coming from a heart that wants to help you, wants to support you. But a lot of times, like, especially nowadays, like, people come up and they're automatically in this like skeptic like zone where, which is good, which is natural, right? Everybody's going to be skeptical when they don't know. It just means that you haven't built the trust yet. That's all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they haven't gotten to the point where they've opened the door to like let you in, and and yeah, go,
Yeah.
yeah, come
I
knock
think
me
it's
on the
interesting
head with a 2x4 here a little bit.
because I part of our conversation we had yesterday too was talking about like older management styles too, where there was definitely a okay, we're going to go to work, we're not going to be friends. You work for me, I'm the boss, kind of thing, and um, and when you go through it, and and he's going through stuff where people that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be with you. He's younger, probably mid 20s, and people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be with you, and he's like, I thought there's like no loyalty. I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it's a job, and you have a contractual relationship. So it's not bad, but it's the I said the pendulum can swing one of two ways. One is you can be like, okay, well, I'm not going to build a relationship with anybody at work. I'm going to keep it like 100% professional. I'm like, but that's not realistic. Like you spend more time at work. Most people spend more time at work than they do with their family. That's just the reality of it. So if you're not building relationships there, you're going to have a pretty sad life or sad time at work. Said, and at the same time, like being able to hold relationships loosely enough to say, hey, man, like appreciate the time that you have together at the time you have it, because you never know when is the last time you're doing something for the last time. Like it just but having value of people and value of relationships. And you're right, like the ability to build trust so that people know that you actually care about them, so that you can have the hard conversations. Because you just come down hard, 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 hard all the time on people, you're just a taskmaster, and there is no relationship. But if you
Yeah,
do soft and you're not outlining clear expectations and you're not being clear on priorities and things like that, it causes a mess on that end as well.
yeah,
Yeah. And then
yeah,
today I was with a different client here in Oregon, and we just had to work on a performance improvement plan for one of their employees, kind of a key employee, and that's hard. And they were asking, well, how do I do this? I said, oh yeah, you've never done this before. This is an uncomfortable conversation. This is not this is not fun, and you're going to be it's going to hurt. It's going to hit some ego. It's going to, but in that you've built a lot of trust. You've built a lot of relationship. They know that you genuinely care about them as a person. That has nothing to do with like, you have to separate that out. And I do this with jobs all the time, especially when people want to get raises or whatever. And it said, hey man, like, here's the thing. I believe your worth is infinite, supreme. And I believe that you have the ability to earn way more than you're earning right now. That being said, this job is not that job. So don't take this. This is not, and I think that's part of the conversation. Nationally, when people say, working, living wage and stuff like that, it's like, hey, the job is the job. You're paid what the job is worth. You're not paid what you are worth, and that I think is the disparity that people have a hard time grasping. And so,
Mm,
then
mm,
the natural question that I get asked is then, well, how do you help people increase? I said, become more valuable. And this is what I would do with employees all the time. Like, okay, I had one guy in particular. He came and worked for me, and he really wanted to be a project manager. And he was kept saying, "I'm being a project manager. I should get paid for this." I said, "Let's figure it out." This is before ChatGPT, so we Googled a bunch of stuff, and I said, "Okay, here's the bullet points of here's a project manager, here's a project coordinator, here's what they do. Which one? Let's go through these bullet points and figure out which things you feel that you do." And he was like 95% project coordinator. I'm like, fantastic. Okay, so here's a project coordinator. Here's how much this position is. You're right in there.
yeah,
Now, here's what I want to do to help you. If you really want to be a project manager, then here's the responsibility that comes with that. You don't have this responsibility yet. You also don't have that experience yet.
yeah.
So, how about you do this? How about you go take these classes? He was a single guy, single dude, young, doesn't have a family, not real responsibility. So I said, so you go do this and go out of your way, take this PMP course, which is project management, professional project manager, something like that,
Hmm.
whatever certification is. So go get the PMP, and when it's done and you pass it, we'll reimburse you. Like we'll pay for the course to be done, but it has to be your initiative and your drive to do it.
Yeah. Mm,
Every couple months, he'd come
that,
back and say, "Hey, I want to raise. I want to raise." I'm like, "Great. How's the PMP course going?" For like 16 months, and then he ended up finding another job because well, so and that's here's how I love you. Here's how I build trust. And he
yeah.
was not offended. We maintained a relationship after that. So I kind of got off topic with offense and things, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's you have to be willing to have those hard conversations because that is how you are going to build into people, and that builds more trust. And so,
Right,
um,
right.
yeah,
I mean, if I was in that position, and maybe some of this is just a heart attitude for myself too, is if you were to walk me through something like that, um, uh, like winners will rise to the challenge, right? A winner will all they need is to see another winner winning for them to get fired up about it, right? It's something like that. It wouldn't take me 16 months. Like if I was really serious about it, right? Especially when you laid it out for me. I mean, that's basically what you did. You gave them a vision, and a goal, and a track to, like, hey, here's the responsibilities for what you're asking for. This is not what you're doing yet. So here you are in this course. Where's it? And you've already laid it out, so you really didn't have to say anything other than, hey, how's that course going?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
uh, so like I think, you know, uh, yeah, I think if he probably read the writing on the wall and said, okay, this is not for me, and hopefully he's doing better. As apparently he's,
yeah.
yeah,
I haven't talked to him in a while. Yeah, I kept
okay,
in touch with him for a while, but then kind of it's been probably a year and a half since I've talked
sure.
to him. But yeah,
Well, and hopefully you drop some good seeds that,
yeah,
things are just not going to be given to you here. And I
no,
think that's not how some places work. I know of big organizations that it doesn't work that way. It works. I don't know, like, somebody gets passed up because they've been at the building longer,
yes,
right? And
yeah,
some people can take offense to that, which honestly, maybe offense in a good way. I don't know if you can say if there's some sort of offense where it's in a good way, to where it challenges you. I don't know what to motivate. I don't know if that's the right word.
yeah,
Um, like a positive spin on offense, because
yeah, hmm,
because hey, wait a minute, like, man, I feel I got more experience, like, hey, if we're going to put the right person, right, the whole, like, bus analogy of, putting the right people, getting the people on the bus and putting them in the right seats, like, if that's really a thing, well, we should open it up for competition. You know what I mean? Like healthy competition, and but I just have I have a feeling that there's just that sort of I don't know what you call that, but just because you've been there long enough means that you get the position because of that. And I think that's totally wrong. And I think a good way to do that is competition. So where okay, like, put your money where your mouth is, and and if the person that's been there long enough doesn't get the job because of because of um production, because of like tangible like patterns, and they get offended, okay, I think you probably made the right choice.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I see this stuff like, you see that kind of stuff in the business world, and you handle those things. But I mean, I see this stuff, when we're talking about education and even coaching, like even like players can be easily like offended. Like it and I don't know if it's offended, like just like simple basic correction of how to do a skill, right? Um or like if a like and it can be something as simple as, hey, the next rep, this is what I want you to do is, oh, I know, like, that to me is you are offended that I'm correcting you. Why don't you just say, "Yes, coach. I'm not in this to, make your life miserable. I'm in this to help you get better in the position." So the last thing I need is, "Oh, I know." Well, if you knew, then you'd be doing it, right?
Right.
Like, so there's even like a counter offense that could happen. Like an immature coach would fly off the handle and be like, "What the heck?" Right? What do you do? Like, can you just? I've had this couple recently, last couple practices that we've had, um, where that's what I see. I see this like automatic like, well, I know, this is what I'm doing, like, and trying to like get ahead of what the coach is trying to like explain, and miss the whole coaching point, right? And so like I've basically, so the way I handle it is, because I have, again, good relationships with these kids and these players, is like I take my glasses off, put my hands right on their shoulder pads, and go, "Hey, listen, when you respond to a coach like that, that tells me you are going to stay stuck in that play and that rep for like another 2-3 minutes. I need you to say yes, coach, next play, and move forward. Can you do that for me? Because I don't want I you can't get better if you stay stuck, right? And if this is a game and a coach tells you to do something and you feel that you need to like, chirp back, like that tells me that like these next 2-3 plays might be compromised because you're stuck feeling offended because a coach coached you. No, no, I didn't say it like that, but I didn't say it that way. I just basically, that first part, right? I'm trying to teach that next play mentality. Good play, bad play, next play, because football ain't waiting for you.
Right.
We're not waiting for you. We can come. I can bring you to the side and I can coach you up on things, but right, if you're in the moment and you're playing and you're giving me that attitude, I know your mind is not right.
Hmm. Right. Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
yes, coach, and then we'll talk about it later, right? Having that mentality, right? So I guess like that would be kind of the things that I see when I'm coaching kids, is that they think they know it all, and they want to like they think that I'm saying something that is embarrassing them or anything like that. And I'm pretty calm when I like redirect kids and when I coach them, right? I'm very like personable about it, right? Um And so like, I would hope that kids can reciprocate that the same type of respect that I give them. You know what I mean? And I'll say that to some kids. I'll just flat out say that. Um, and it gets to the point. Um, and here's the thing. I'm not trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a difference in your playing. in who you are as a player and as a student and as a human being, you know, because all these things that we do here, and I love athletics because it translates so well into the workforce, right? Like you're in the grind with some things and you're in the grind with others. Um, and so you have to learn how to play well with others. You have to learn how to come under authority with coaches, right? Because we're all trying to strive to hit a goal that we're all trying to buy in and be part of, right? So there's my rant, my
That
school
was a great,
example, my coach
dude.
example.
That was a great rant because it's amazing how many times, you know, yes, in sports, because it's so, I think it's because the feedback loop is so fast, right? Where, you know, even just like even watching professional sports and you see somebody like lose it, like psychologically they're out of it. And you're just like, dude, if you're a leader on the team, you better pull yourself out of that because that is going to tank the rest of the team, you know? Um, but even in business too, like when you have to correct somebody, even, you know, this performance improvement plan we just worked on today, and the whole purpose and point of it was, hey, we're not doing this for us. We know how to do these things. You know, even like with your football players, you're like, hey, I'm not telling you this because I need to be better. I'm telling you this because I want you to be better, right? So this isn't me hearing myself talk, unless you are the type of person that likes to hear yourself talk.
Yeah.
Then maybe you need to not talk as much, but that's a different problem. But yeah, but that's interesting though. Yeah, and how to, because I think part of it too, I guess, even in that, as we're talking about offense, is how to bounce back from that offense, right? Because even if there are things, and maybe it's that there are things that offend me, but I don't let it I don't let myself dwell on it.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I
okay,
mean?
let's okay. Like I just want to hit on that point because I know you've been offended before. And
Yeah.
if you can like maybe recall a time when you were offended, like what was like like what
Mm,
goes on
yeah.
internally for you when you feel
All right.
offended by
No,
what
this is
somebody
good.
said?
Now I'm thinking back to when this actually is pretty recent. So now I'm like, okay, all right, Ray, pulling this out of me. Um, let's see, it must have been like January this year. So I'm part of this networking group. I had a lot of travel and said, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while. And so the leadership team of that called me up and said, hey, we're gonna have to ask you basically to step back because you haven't been here as much, and you know part of the expectations is X, Y, and Z. I'm like, hey, 100%, I get it. Um, and then I can't remember, but it was how it was said. It was the oh yeah. So anyway, so that happened, and then when I was coming back into the group after I had some travel wrapped up, said, hey, yep, it looks like I'm back, and it was this. Well, we don't know if you're like good enough to be here, and it was the offense was I give a lot more than I receive from this thing. Y'all should be happy that I'm here. You know, it was, that was the internal dialogue. That's interesting. Yeah. So it was, but at the same, but the ability to then let it go fast.
Yeah.
And I think maybe
That
that's
sure
this.
takes practice. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And how to let, yeah, maybe that's the skill set more than anything. Cause if we all get offended about things, it's how do we take that and let go of it? Like, yeah,
Well,
I'm just going to,
how long did it take for you to let go of it? You're thinking about it?
no, I was thinking about it. Probably a couple hours.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that goes back to what I was saying, right? The event happens, but then like we replay the event over and
Yeah.
over in
Right.
our head. That's the
Yeah.
part where we can get if we don't manage that right,
Yeah.
boy, we can find ourselves in a really crappy place. Almost like a
Yeah.
prison. We can like
Yeah.
imprison ourselves in this in that thought process, right? So, um yeah, yeah, certainly being offended. Ah, yeah, dude. It can be something really like really small. Like so here's something really small. Um so my mind like works overtime in my head. Like when I'm having conversation, even when I'm having conversations with you, I'm like you say something, I'm like in my head, I'm like, ooh, that's real good. Like, how do I and like and sometimes I'm in and out of like intense focus and like focus ish, right? And so that happens also in the relationship I have with my wife and my marriage. Sometimes uh I'm like that. Sometimes I'm intentionally focused, and sometimes I'm and just there in the room with you. Uh, um, so when I'm in the part where I'm just kind of in the room and my wife is saying something, and I go wait, and I ask her to repeat it, my wife has a tendency because that annoys her, right?
Yeah,
And I
sure.
get it,
Yeah.
because I really wasn't paying attention, but she has this way of saying like, um, she'll like say things in like a little child way. I said so saying something like, I said blah 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 blah. And oh man, that hits me hard, dude. I was like, oh, I know I wasn't paying attention, but I sure did not like the way you said that to me. I'm not like some little kid. Don't be talking to me like that. Like, um, uh, I think sometimes um, and I know my wife didn't. I know my wife was annoyed by it, but I don't think she meant anything by it, which is for us as a person who does get offended, right? We like to judge everybody else by their actions. Like, like she didn't really mean it that way, but when somebody hurts us, boy, they meant every word. They
Mm,
meant to do that.
yeah.
Like, right? Like I think
And we
that,
make the story way worse too, right? Where
and
it's
we
like,
make
we heard
yeah,
this
we
thing.
ruminate over it, and we overgeneralize it
Here's what they
sometimes.
meant. Yeah,
Here's what
yeah,
they meant, right?
yeah.
Oh, this is what I love telling kids. We love to fill in the blanks sometimes, right?
Mm,
We
yeah.
fill it in for it, and they're not, and because we're offended, we fill it in with really offended blank, like really offended words in there, right? And I think and what you were saying, right? Like we've kind of learned over time, because I think when we've done it enough, and like we're healthy when it comes to um moments where we feel offended, and we're healthy in that area, we get curious before we get offended, right? And so it gives us that little pause to uh to whatever it is that we want to say about the situation. Oh, okay, right? For me, it was like, yeah, like in my head, I was like, I wasn't listening. That's the pause. Like, you're right. I deserve that one. I didn't say that to my wife. I just like in my head, like, yeah, got it. You're right. Yep. Thanks for clearing that one up. Appreciate it.
That,
So yeah,
that's so funny.
I think that's the skill, right? Healthy, like we have to turn our offense into maybe some curiosity, so that so that we don't lose the thing that we're trying to do with people, which is connect with them, right? When we connect, right, then we can start to build that trust, and we can have that bridge to like exchange communication a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that's so good. That was so good. Yeah. And it's amazing too, just the meaning making machines that we are, right? Somebody said something, we're like, oh well, they meant this. It's like, did you ask them? And even back to that very simple, like, well, the simple question of, well, what did you mean by that?
Yes.
That
Ooh,
and it's so
that's
funny
a
because
good
it
one.
it seems like it's confrontational. It's like, well, what did you mean by that? Well, I meant blah blah blah. And it's amazing, honestly, like, dude, it's amazing how many times that has cleared up so much. Just that quick question, because oh, I meant this and this and this. Like, oh, okay. I thought you meant this. I'm like, oh no, I didn't mean that at all. Great. Or if they're like, yeah, I said exactly, you know exactly what I meant. I'm like, oh, you're trying to offend me then, right? you're trying to get under my skin. That's a different problem. Like, you know,
That takes
but
some finesse. Like I've done that. I have done that. Um, that sounds bad. How confident I said that, but I've used those techniques almost as a almost like a test in relationships sometimes. Like, how much can you take? How much how much are you willing to trust me that whatever it is that you're mad about, I will still see you at the other side of it. Like, you know what I mean? I'll still be there. I'll still help you. Um, which I don't know if that's right, but that comes from um maybe a heart that is curious, that really does want to help, you know, and then and someone who's skilled and has done this before, it'll almost feel seamless. It like right? Like when you just ask questions, like when you and I say um, that simple question, like, what did you mean by that? I don't take that as offense at all. I didn't read it as offense. I just know like that you are curious about it, right? That's my view. You're curious about wanting to connect and wanting to understand where I'm coming from. And yeah, like you said, man, I think there's some people that just that don't have the practice or the guidance to respond to it well, and instead of responding, they react to it,
Yes. Right.
right?
Yeah. And it can get ugly. And that's the,
Yes, it
yeah.
can. Yes, it
Yeah.
can. Well, and like I think what you said too, like, you know, what we talked about, like filling in the blanks. People love to read between the lines, right? To read in between the lines that were never written
Yes. Yeah.
in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's that unspoken expectation thing, where,
Right, right. And
yeah.
that's where uh a disruptor, like a question, like what did you mean by that? That helps you fill in the blanks better. If your heart is in the right place to receive it, right? And sometimes, like, again, I go back to like a skilled person knows how to you know, um put the extra post underneath that bridge so that it can kind of carry what's coming a little bit better, right? So
Yeah, that's true. It was funny because the guy I was with yesterday, he told me probably like 6 months ago, and I think I said this on the podcast where he looked at me, he's like, "Dang," he's like, "Jason, you can tell me some of the hardest, harshest things, but I still like you." And just realizing that that is definitely it's a skill, and it's also um I don't know, wisdom, understanding, like knowing, like I love your analogy of like, having that the bridge of trust and knowing what weight you can put on that thing. And so being able to read and just push a little more or put a little more weight on that. Be like, can you handle this? Like um I'm gonna add this layer to it. I'm gonna add this weight to it. What do you feel like? How do you feel about this? And if I start seeing stuff to crack, then it's like, okay, great, I can back off then. You know? If you're telling me that you want me to coach you and you're telling me that you want me to just be as blunt as possible, I'm not going to be as blunt as possible. Right? I'm going to, because I don't know, especially when people tell me like, yeah, just shoot me. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think you can handle that. Well, let's find out, like
yeah,
let's
yeah,
do a little bits at a time. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you can. And so anyway, so that's why I love hanging out with this guy. Cause it's like, yeah, I can shoot very straight with you. And, but I'm also checking in with him too and saying, hey, that was pretty harsh. How you feeling? Like, how you doing?
love it.
Yeah, we were together for 6 hours yesterday, 8 hours yesterday. So good stuff, great stuff. But
Um, so like talk to me about so like in school, right? When I was getting my master's, we talked a lot about like the fragility of like a person's ego, right? So talk to me about like how I'm curious when I say ego, how does that play into people getting offended?
mm,
Because you work with some people, you work with some go-getters, people who built businesses, right? And that takes a healthy amount of ego. Um, man, I hate. Sorry, hate is not the right word. Uh, I I'm really like desensitized when it comes to using therapeutic type of language. Like I like being real. I don't like talking clinical. So like so yeah, I guess back on that point about you know, having how does a person's ego, like someone a high ego like that, high confidence, how does it how does that impact how does offense impact that?
Like in what way? Like the like healthy ego. I mean, if you want clinical terminology, you came to the right place because I have my doctorate in psychology. Obviously, no, that's a lie. You got your master's degree. I just deal with people in
Yeah.
a lot of real world. Um, so
Well,
in terms
okay.
of
Well,
like,
so give me an example.
yeah,
So I guess give me the contrast between. I'm sure you've worked with someone who's had a very, let's call it like a sensitive ego, and someone who had a very healthy ego. Like, what would you if you could maybe pull apart maybe one or two things from each of those, what would it be?
insecurity. I think that's the biggest one because I think of people that I've had ego conflicts with. It usually comes to insecurity, and I don't know if that's just like a feeling of self worth or things like that. Because if you don't feel like you're grounded in yourself and who you are, then you have to have external validation to say this is so. If all of a sudden I start picking at that, it's not I'm picking at the thing, right? It's like a direct drive into the soul of the person, especially artistic people, like people that are very artistic. And I can speak for myself too, like even as a musician, like when I write music and things like that, if I get feedback and people are like, it's like, dude, I poured my heart and soul into this thing, you know? And so being
Yeah.
able to help separate. And so one of the key things that I try to help business owners do is separate out the issue from the person so that we can put the issue on the table and we can do an autopsy or an MRI on the issue. And it has nothing to do with people, right? It has nothing to do with things. And so even a lot of the technique that I use when I'm starting to build out stuff, I say, hey, everybody's fired today. We don't work here. Let's now, as outside observers, let's see what we need to do to build this thing.
Mm,
Because if we can kind of like separate ourselves, because unfortunately, like I am my job, or I am my career, or I am my creation, or I am my business. Unfortunately, that is, I think that's where it becomes unhealthy because people that have a different sense, like we were talking about Connor, you know, before we jumped on this recording, you know, our friend, and he's built a great company, but he is not his company,
right.
right? That is not
It's not his identity.
exactly that is not his
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
identity,
Yeah.
and there's so many people that is not true, that it is their
Mm,
identity, and
yeah.
so if you start to criticize or critique or to look at this, um, that's where you know I don't know. That's my thought. I
Whew.
think it's
I mean,
insecurity.
that's a healthy lesson for me too. Like, cause I am, especially when you brought up like creativity, I feel
Mm.
like I work in my right side of my brain a lot more,
Yeah.
than I do with my left side, which is, and, and you know this already, I'm just going to say it out loud, is why I'm really good friends with you because you're really strong when it comes to the left side of you like you're a builder, right? You love to see how things work and you like to piece things together. I like have like these right. I'm like a squirrel sometimes and things just come in my head and then like I say it and then boom, you like you articulate it for me and you help me put it together. And so like right, I totally relate when you say, when you have created something, right? Even like even when I told you about the huddle thing where I got teacher
Yeah.
feedback, I really, um, there really wasn't anything on there that was like critical. It was basically positive feedback for everything. And like I even like mentioned on the feedback, like, hey, I really, really need good feedback because if I don't, then this thing will just kind of be where it is. And I'm just gonna kind of fly by the seat of my pants and not get anything that you guys really want. Because at the end of the day, right, and this is what I said on the feedback thing, is like nobody knows your classroom or your students better than the person that's standing in there every day, day in, day out. So I need that feedback from you. And so like, you know, my ego, if you want to put it that way, like in my head, I'm like, don't be so harsh though. But I do want some hard stuff. Um, so like, I don't know. I like I would I would get like a compliment, or not a like a feedback of like, you know, I just think like there's certain things that didn't really click well. Right now, for me, if I wasn't healthy with with how I see feedback, then I would be like, what does she mean by that? Like, what the heck, man? Like, I thought that was great. Um, but I have learned, and I'm still working on it, because I like the creativity, um, that if I come at feedback um, or hard stuff coming my way, to look at it with like humility, right? And that's like, again, that's what, just basically what we said when we ask question. That's coming from humility. I don't know things and I need to know, right? And so because I think a lot of times like ego has really sensitive skin, right? And you touched on it earlier, where a lot of times people can be uh thin skinned and hard hearted, but we really want people we really want to be around people, or we want to fill our teams, um encourage players to have a soft heart and a thick skin, right? To where you can come at it from, and that's basically saying be humble when you're hearing feedback, um right? Because yeah, like I said,
And
yeah.
I think there's wisdom in knowing who to get feedback from too, because I think there's
Mm,
the one side where if you listen to everybody's opinion, and that's the social media problem, right? Where people get into
yes.
comments and they're just like, and I only, and being, it was funny. I was talking to Peyton about this last night. And we were just talking about Dunbar's number, you know, the 5, 15, 50, 150, you know, the social psychologist that talks about like, there's only so many relationships that we can have. And so the inner circle is pretty small. And, and unfortunately, the social media has kind of broken our brains around what we can hold, because you have 300 million followers on X or Instagram or whatever. Those aren't relationships. Those are just, you know, it, but if we treat their opinion as if it was one of the five or one of the 15,
Ooh.
we're going to get really screwed up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And in the same
Yeah.
way with competence too, because even like we're talking coaching, for example. So I remember in high school, one of the times I was really offended. I think I got a yellow card for it too. I was playing soccer, and it ended up being a 3-on-1, and I was the center back. I can't manage three guys at once, you know, as they spread the field, and so I do the best I can to try to mitigate the situation. The guys end up like coming and scoring on us and stuff like that. And one of the dads on our team just started like freaking out and yelling. And so I started yelling back. I'm like, well, you get your fat butt out here and show me how to do it then. You know, kind of like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Number one, you've never played the sport. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, shut up, dude. You know, that's so right. When I'm 16, obviously, you know, I wouldn't do that today, hopefully.
Right.
You know, but I'm 16 and emotional and all the different things. But it's kind of the same thing. Like, only like take advice and from people that actually have some competence in the area, because they don't, and you're allowing the masses to speak to you, and you're letting it affect you the same way that somebody that's close to you, right? It goes back to the trust thing. Like there's no trust, there's no relationship with these 3,000 people that want to comment on something, um,
Ooh.
versus having a healthy relationship where I could come to somebody like a Ray, who I'd say is like one of my five, and I say, hey Ray, here's the thing, and then you're gonna actually like, you can give me feedback and I'm actually going to hear you. Does that make sense? And if it's hard, then it's probably something I actually do need to hear. And I'm working with a friend of mine in Nashville, and he's in the middle of writing this book. And it's been interesting because he's asked me for feedback, and the feedback I'm giving him is not the easiest feedback to give, because I'm pushing him. I said, okay, like, you know, we're friends. I don't know, it's kind of like, are you in this 15 layer in Dunbar's number, or are you in the 50 layer? And then we're going to find out. We're going to test this bridge real quick and
Mm.
see the weight that we can put on this. And that was the thing that I pushed back on because he's got a big social media following. I said, here's the thing. I understand you ignoring. I said, but it sounds like you're attacking these arguments from the position of somebody that thought about the thing you said for 10 seconds and responded on Twitter. Like
Mm.
that's the weight of the argument that you're giving. I would encourage you to give the weight of the argument of somebody that's so difficult, because that becomes a bulletproof argument. Like if I can poke holes in it, and I don't agree with you on some things. So if I can poke holes in it, I'm not just a dumb Twitter guy. I'm thinking about this. And so here's my thoughts. Does that make sense? And so
That's
trying to
yeah,
like let me give
absolutely.
you some feedback. And it was great. And yeah. And he actually, and we got on a call after that, and he's like, oh no. He's like, no, brother, this is exactly what I needed. He's like, this is exactly why I came to you. And this is why I don't come to a lot of people, because it comes to trust, it comes to relationship. And it's like, okay, no, I value your feedback because you actually are trying to help me be better, not just spouting an opinion, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So,
That is good feedback, by the way. You didn't even give me. That's not even feedback for me, but I thought I thought that sounded pretty good.
oh, I actually
Eh,
stole that one
but-
from Erwin McManus, but
Well, what a great person to
yeah.
borrow from. You know what? I that's a great just I want to like stay on that topic just a little longer because I mean I deal with that and I know to an extent you deal with that too with old like adults, young adults, or even older adults that can get caught up in what the numbers look like as far as the feedback from the social media sphere, right? um like how would um I guess like I getting try to get your opinion because you also have kids and eventually they're going to maybe dabble in the social media and get those you know get those comments on something that they create or whatever. Like how do you what am I trying to ask here? How do you shield against, maybe not, maybe shield is not the right word, more along the lines of like how do you prepare a generation where they are immersed in just a large audience and any Joe and Jane can comment on whatever topic is maybe like near and dear to your heart and like and and people you don't even know just disagree wholeheartedly. How do you prepare people for that and handle that well?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, like there's the Joe Rogan technique, and he tells people all the time, he's like, just don't read the comments at all. It's like, just stay
Mm.
away from it. And if that's a fully grown adult who has a pretty high self esteem and has done stuff in his life, and he's telling people like, don't get in the comments, like it's garbage, it's nonsense. It screws with your head in a way that you don't want. And even funny, I know we talked about this before. There was a comment on one of the podcasts that we did on YouTube or something, and it came up, and it was basically like, well, these people, and I don't remember, it was about like health insurance or something. I was talking about how when the
Remember
state starts mandating things, we got problems. And they're like, well, you don't know, blah 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 blah. And I was and
that.
like I kind of got offended by. I was like, who are you? And but then I was like, oh, like you're some 17-year-old kid in their bedroom that has zero life experience. And if we had the courage to have this conversation, there's no way or I'd be happy to you could say that to me, and then
Yeah.
let me help educate you on this
Yeah.
if you want to know. But it goes back to like, are you just being confrontational or being curious?
Mm.
I love the way you keep saying about that being curious thing, because I think that's it. Like, um, yeah,
I would even say
I think
I
it's
would say like
yeah,
being having humility within dialogue back and forth with each other, right?
yeah,
Like yeah.
yeah, yeah, and and because it's most communication is a one-way street, especially on
Mm,
social media. It's not a conversation.
absolutely. Nope.
And so I think that's the thing that I feel like, for whatever reason, I feel like I'm talking a lot more about Dunbar's number and relationships and interpersonal communication and stuff like that. Just kind of in general, it seems to be a theme right now where it's okay. How do I have this conversation with this person? And realizing oh yeah, people just don't know how to do that very well. People don't know how to have hard conversations. Even that, like the thing we started with, where I was talking about, like, what are your expectations? What are your assumptions? It's like, well, that seems really aggressive. I'm like, it's really not. But the thing is that we don't know how to articulate that. We don't know how to have dialogue. So I don't know. Like with my kids, for myself, yeah, they, maybe at some point they might dabble in social media. I'm going to encourage them to not as much as possible, just because I don't see a net benefit.